Night of pain, night of rage. Once again, a black unarmed youth has been killed by a cop. And while the facts surrounding the shooting are presently unclear, what's clear is that a cop shot 18-year-old Michael Brown 8 times. 8 times. According to at least one eyewitness, Brown was shot as he stood with his hands up in the air. To anyone who knows American history, this is not a rarity. It is the result of a systematic function of police across the nation to repress, target, and track the nation's black population. That has been the case for generations. We shall see voices trotted out to call for calm as outrage arises in black hearts in response to outrageous treatment. Never do those calling for calm become voices calling for true justice. For they have no influence over the repressive forces, and in fact, no political office in America does. They have been paid off, bought off, or both. Listen to the voices of black politicians. Indeed, listen to the voices of white politicians. Listen to the ringing silence. Needed in Fugerson, near St. Louis, Missouri, and in every black community in America, are independent and uncompromising black revolutionary collectives determined to protect the lives and well-being of black people, period. Existing political structures, silent in the face of these outrages, have failed us and cannot be made to serve our interests. It's time to learn from this and build for our future necessities. From Imprisoned Nation, this is Mumia Abu Jamal. These commentaries are recorded by Noel Hanrahan of Prison Radio.
Man, we were having a pre-discussion that was off the hook. This is your boy, your host, Yang and Kruma, coming to you again live from the Arena 2013. Look us up on YouTube. But before we go any further, let me start out with our disclaimer. The views and the opinions do not reflect Comcast, its employee, or its affiliates. They strictly belong to the Arena and the panelists on the Arena. With that said, we do like we do every week. We let our guests introduce themselves. So we're going to start to our right with our guests introducing themselves.
King Noble. www.kingnobleblackrulership.com. Black Supremacy.
Gidon Ben Yasharal, your servant of Yah and the servant of his people.
I'm Free, and I represent the new Black Panther Party.
And I'm Vincent Cheeks, actor and activist. I have a brief announcement really quick. We say no more. A call for a month of resistance to mass incarceration, police terror, repression, and the criminalization of a generation. The United States has 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prison population. More than 60% of those in U.S. prisons are Black and Latino. We call for a massive month of resistance to mass incarceration in the month of October of this year, a month that can impact all of society, one that can open the eyes of millions of people to the need to end this new Jim Crow. In October 2014, our resistance to mass incarceration must reverberate across the country and around the world. There must be powerful demonstrations nationwide on October 22nd, the National Day of Protest to stop police brutality, repression, and the criminalization of a generation. October 2014 must be a month that makes clear that thousands and thousands are willing to stand up and speak out today and to awaken and rally forth millions. It must be the beginning of the end of the mass incarceration in the United States. And with that, let's go into our show.
No doubt, no doubt. St. Louis, Michael Brown. Need I say more? Need I say more? This is what this show is about. This is what we're talking about, and especially for, I know we've been getting a lot of comments for our people wishing that we would bring some of the affairs, as being Black nationalists, some of the affairs back to our nation and here at home. And this is it. What better topic than to break it back home than St. Louis and Michael Brown? And with that, I was talking to the brother, we were talking a little earlier, what we call the pregame talk. Then we was talking to our dear brother, King Noble, and he had some things that he wanted to bring to the table. So I say we hear that and then just start really building from that.
Yes, sir. First thing, I want to talk about what is not given in, they're not giving energy to. None, what they're not talking about with the Ferguson St. Louis situation. And one, the youth movement in America. There's a desire for the youth of all race and of all nationalities to create a new government, a new idea, a new reality that they feel is less oppressive, that represents their ideas. You see that with Occupy Wall Street, and you can see that even with the youth in St. Louis. I saw like the cops, the sheriffs, the state troopers, all of them seem like older people. They seem older, like I felt this older people trying to hold on to power that they're losing. I mean, we brought down these old people in other countries with Mubarak, and we see revolutions happen all around the world, but it's now visited America. The youth want some say-so in their government and how their cities and states are ran. So there's a youth rebellion and resistance movement going on beyond race that we can see happening in St. Louis. That's with the Occupy even unifying with black conscious people or black people in the community. That's one issue I want to hit on. Issue number two, the states are now, and even cities, counties, are trying to have more power than governments. They're trying to set up their own sovereign nations. So we can see the type of militancy that we saw in St. Louis is representative of their preparation to become a sovereign state like Israel. Because from the research, the chief had some training in Israel with terrorism preparation. So now they're ready. We think they had these tanks out there just for black people, just because they were scared of looters and protesters. They had those tanks because they now know how big the media has become, given the Trayvon Martin situation, and how they know that situations can blow up. So they're now prepared to fight anybody. They're prepared to fight the federal government. They're prepared to fight the military themselves. That's why they got tanks, because they know these situations can blow up to it all caving in on their little counties and little.
Let me take you back to one particular thing that you said, and I want you to repeat that again, because it goes so along the lines of the shows that we had prior to this, with the Israel-Palestine conflict. What did you say about the chief?
He had some training in Israel dealing with anti-terrorist, some type of anti-terrorism training.
Damn, so we are connected to an international community. I'm just saying that for all the people that had them comments that were wondering what this had to do with us.
And I think that's why the Palestinians were able to identify with the struggle going on in St. Louis, because it was a reflection of what they're going through, because the same type of tactics was being utilized in St. Louis.
Damn.
Yeah. So those were the three major things that I saw stand out that I don't think they're giving energy to. That it's a bigger case. Oh, one last one. The militias coming into St. Louis in order to so-called defend the people from tyranny. Well, the militias now are scared that this obvious white supremacist face that we're seeing with the police department in St. Louis is creating this type of racial polarization that can affect them anywhere. There's always been this scare of this urban warfare of black against whites. So these white militias wanted to come in and kind of show that they were on the side of the people to kind of protect their interests. Because they're scared. They got their guns and all their weapons because they think a race war is coming. So they want to come and try to keep that down, to show that the falling of the integrity of the United States government, which we saw in St. Louis, there was a big gap in the integrity there with what happened with Mike Brown. They saying, well, look, this doesn't represent us. This is a hole in the integrity in the government altogether. We're here to stand for the rights of the people and the constitutions, the United States Constitution. So there's a fear going on now with the white militias. So now you got states trying to have create their own countries, basically, and now you have militias who's trying to represent an old constitutional form of government and trying to maintain the integrity of that. So it's a lot of things interplaying going on, but I see people just more focused on the emotions and racism and Michael Brown and police brutality, which is a very old situation.
Is it the people, King Noble, and then I'm going to come to you to get into, because Brother King Noble raised an excellent point about the youth establishing themselves and taking over leadership. But is it the people that just see the race card, or is it African people here in America primarily? Are we stuck on just not seeing the bigger picture because of lack of political education or something, or the people in all?
I think that the racial aspect is relevant, and I think that's the part that gets our attention more. We usually, unless we get shot or beat or attacked, we don't really pay attention to what's going on in the government and world politics. So I think that's going to get them right off the bat. But I think there are underlying issues that are going on simultaneously. I'm glad that it became a racial issue and black people were given a reason to actually stand up for something.
That's right.
And this situation has been created. But I think that we need to pay attention to those underlying issues, because there may be some victory that can come from us through these other entities clashing. Like when we think revolution is kind of linear right now. We thinking, are these black looters going to be able to have some insurrection and overthrow white supremacy? But it's so many fighting forces on federal levels, on government, on militia levels, that it's a possibility that it could be destabilized in a way where there can be some radical change that we need in this society.
Right on.
Definitely.
Brother Gideon, man, Brother King Noble made an excellent point when he was talking about the youth asserting themselves, the youth stepping into their destiny as being the leaders and things of that. As an elder and the elder on the panelist, and one that I'm always glad to have here, kind of keep a balance and to give us some feedback off of on a lot of things. What do you say what do you say about the youth asserting themselves and taking that position? And then with them doing that, what is the role of our elders in that transformation or in that transition?
You know, that's a heavy question, and I really wanted to be kind of follow up and hear you young people, but I'll come in here and jump in briefly. You know, when I see the youth, I see the legacy of our ancestors, and I see the future of our people. But I also see, because of indoctrination, because of the media and the infiltration of our people, the acceptance of white supremacy, and they have unfortunately resounded with the issue of violence because we've been saturated with violence. Whether it's video games, whether it's our people trying to follow the white master through the civil rights agenda, we saw violence. So our children have been saturated with violence to the point where we become desensitized to violence. And as a result of being desensitized, we talk about domestic violence is at an all-time high. And the issue of domestic violence is at the core element of our community being able to come together. Because if you can't come together in the household, mama and daddy, then you ain't gonna come together in the street.
In the neighborhood. That's
You
right.
understand?
That's right.
So the issue of our children, it has to do with spiritual power. Because we are being set up for a big killing. Because our children have become gangsters, whores, pimps, confidence men and women, liars, thieves, and thugs. And that mentality, along with the innocence that we once had, has been touted all over the world, where they think it's going to be a righteous kill to destroy us. They just don't know who we are as a people, and that there are spiritual powers beyond their understanding that are protecting us. But the image that the world has been shown is that we deserve death. And quite honestly, with a lot of these things that we're doing to each other and selling each other out, that is exactly what we deserve. But our Creator is going to save us.
Do I need to do it? Do I need to do it?
That's your decision.
We deserve death, and that's right. Get some clarity on. Do we deserve death, and at whose hands is one of the things. But I want to, because since we have young men here, we have Vince here, and we have our brother Free, an up and coming man, an outstanding brother, up and coming in the party. You know, very articulate in his thing. Brother Free, we hear what Brother Gideon said about the youth and the image, the youth's culture, subculture of violence, and what King Noble, our brother King Noble said about you brothers, the youth, making that transition to come into leadership. A couple questions I have for you. Okay. What do you say about this subculture of violence, the pimping, the gangsterism, because we had that in my era too, you understand what I'm saying? But being brought to a whole nother level where misogyny and just lewdness and all kind of other crazy stuff, the exploitation of African people here in America is just at an all-time high. And even now that these white boys are profiting from it. And so what do you say about that? And then secondly, does the youth have any plans for the transition to come into power? Is that something that the youth of today, and I know you can't speak for every youth, but the youth of today even think about?
Well, first off, let me thank y'all for being here. And second, to kind of just touch on that. First off, in order to really, really understand or to know what's going on, you have to know who you are. The reason why there's so much of the quote unquote whoring going on, the pimps, the gangsters, the thug, because that's what they're showing us. If you don't have an identity, guess what? I can come in and put a label on your forehead and tell you anything that you are, and you'll believe it. I can take a carton of milk and make that carton of milk believe that it's buttermilk just by changing the label on it. Right. And that's what they've done to our youth. Yes, I've seen it. I witnessed it. I grew up in the 80s to seeing what the 90s brought to seeing what the year 2000 and beyond has brought. Every single year, fiscally, not even just fiscally, quarterly, the violence has risen to astronomical levels. Not only that, like he touched on with the announcement, the jail rate. Those are things that's going on now. In these days and times, you don't have fathers. You don't have that neighborhood structure that we once had, where when Miss Morris saw you acting up in the street, you got beat by Miss Morris, then turned around and got beat by the lady across the street. And by the time your mama got home, by the time you finally touched the bed, you had about a good 5-6 whoopings that day.
Yeah.
So there's no more of that. What that's now being replaced with is these blunts that we smoke, the alcohol that they drink, by the things that they see on the TV. We gotta have, every female wants to know how good she can twerk her booty. Putting twerk videos on Facebook.
That's right.
Whoring herself to Instagram for a like.
That's right.
These are things
For a like.
For a like. For a like.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that are going on within our generation that nobody really speaks on, because, as you know, as in the previous discussion with the brother, I had, it's the whole brainwashing or the manipulation of the youth. If I don't know or have anything to stand on concrete, if I don't have a foundation, then I'm gonna sink in sand. The easiest way to sink in quicksand is to flail around like you have no sense, instead of being patient and allowing yourself to realize, okay, I'm in this position. How do I use my mind to get out of it?
So what's the and I'm gonna go to, you know what, and I'm gonna ask you, so what is my other question is, so is there a plan for that, and exactly how do you appeal, because you'll have a lot of older brothers and a lot of the revolutionaries say, you young people not listening, you know what I'm saying? So is there a plan coming from that generation? Is there a plan? Is this something that young people actually think about? You know what I'm saying? How do we approach young people and things of that nature?
Well, when it comes down to that, first off, to really just state this disclaimer for me, these are my views, my opinions. These don't reflect the generation or other people.
Right, because you don't want all them young Negroes chasing you down the street.
Honestly, what the next man view is, okay, if you choose to live in ignorance, that's you.
That's right.
But if I can pull you out, cool. But if not, I'm sorry, you're gonna sit there until you fail or until you realize that, hey, I can get up. So now, with that being said, the plans for everybody else, I don't know what everybody else plans to do. But for me and those that surround me and those whom are like me, we have a set destiny to be able to manifest leaders beyond Martin and beyond Malcolm and beyond all the others. Right now, to this day, 2014, they're still living off the glory days of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all of these people that came before us, the civil rights leaders. We're still living off their accomplishments. Where's our new leaders?
Right.
Where's our new parties full of young, aspiring, on fire people who want to do something for it? We don't have that because now they've taken the elder statesmen and they've pushed them out. They've locked them up. They beat them over the head with so much hypocrisy and supremacy. They don't want to speak up. And so they sit back in turn and watch us and just shake their heads because they're in the point of, certain people are in the point of powerlessness.
Exactly.
So with that being said, that is why we don't have what we need or what is equipped to us or what can be equipped to us to be able to properly step out and lead, because we don't have that elder statesman looking over our shoulder saying,
Man, didn't I tell y'all the young brothers on fire?
Absolutely.
Didn't I tell you the young brothers on fire? And this is and brothers like that, man, you know, should encourage us.
Yes.
As seasoned revolutionaries, you know, we have to take brothers like that under our wing and start to cultivate mode and introduce them into the circle, man, and get that information out there, man, because they're speaking for a whole new generation of people and youth of people. Brother Vince.
Yes, sir.
You've been hearing everything going on. You know what I'm saying? And everything that's been said. What's your take and comment on some of these things, brother?
Well, I just want to speak to the youth being our new leaders or going into the leadership roles. One of the reasons that we don't see a lot of that these days is because back in the 50s through the 70s, there was this program called COINTELPRO, Counterintelligence Program. And the counterintelligence program carried out by the FBI from the 50s through the 70s was to covertly disrupt Black power and other ethnic-based movements. And so they did that. They were very successful in that. They squashed a whole movement. They took out the good leaders that we did have, Malcolm, Martin, Huey. You know what I mean? They took everybody out and still, I guess, instilled this fear and beat us down and pacified us so much after that not only after they pacified us, they started giving us a little bit,
Mhm.
a few more rights
Yeah.
here and there, just to shut us up,
Mhm.
and we got comfortable with that. And so, I guess through the 80s and 90s, we felt when the need, we got our civil rights. We done reached the mountaintop, and so the few that are still around from the 60s and 70s, like Sharpton, I get so tired of seeing
Okay.
his face on the TV speaking for all black people.
Black leader. Yeah.
According, and to me, he's an opportunist. And to be honest, that's the only thing I agree with Fox News on. Every time I watch Fox News, they're calling Al Sharpton an opportunist. And so we do need an emergence of new leaders. And for me, I think it's hard to organize something like that because once they pacified us, they divided us with all this capitalism, materialism, and all of this stuff, and your classism, you're up here and you're down here, and everything. So I don't know what it will take to get the youth to move into those leadership positions. I know it's definitely needed. I've talked to young people myself and tried to get them involved in stuff. And it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I mean, because they rather play Madden and all this. And I don't want to knock that stuff. If that's what you want to do and you're free, but do something more productive, something of a higher consciousness that's going to help your people. And then when you get a break, go play Madden and do the extra stuff that you're doing.
And I'm going to tell you, and you're absolutely right. And what gets me is, like you said, because we say youth. And I think a lot of times when we say youth, these images pop up in our mind of young people, but we're talking about fathers. A lot of these young brothers and sisters have children.
Right. Yeah.
So when we say youth, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying to my audience, we're not talking about babies here. We're talking about actually young adults.
Right.
Sure.
Exactly.
Who are fathers and mothers and who are responsible for the next generation of our people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have children. So what do you teach? So if they still stuck in this youth mind and this youth mindedness, when their children come up, what can we expect? I got kids in our community, and the brother and I live in the same community, Brother Free. We got kids in our community where we don't like to call them bad as hell. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But for lack of a better word, sometimes you have to say that. But when you address them, like I had a little dude in my community, I guess he wanted to be hard, a gangster. You know what I'm saying? And it took everything in me to still build with this young man. Right. He's like 12 and slapped my 5-year-old boy. And went around bragging about it. Right. And I was upset with him, and I was upset with the brothers that he went to brag to about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And some of these brothers that I actually work with, but I had to understand the whole pathology of the damn thing. I had to understand what brought that about.
I want to speak towards the violence.
Now,
they found out that white on white crime is more prevalent than black on black crime. It's just the media, the media blows up black on black crime.
Right.
I think the issue within our community as it relates to youth is a question of black radicalism versus black conservatism.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is that we have radical ideas and ideologies, but we're religiously conservative, even where we're not Christian.
Yeah.
I see that there's not enough violence in the black community. When you live in a society that you're not satisfied by what's going on because you know you're underdeveloped, underjobbed, undereducated, that it's not working for you, they're incarcerating your fathers and uncles and brothers. When you know that a society is against you, how peaceful are you going to be? There's not enough violence. We talk about violence in America, but then we'll go and sit down and talk about Palestine and Israel and what's going on. We'll talk about Iraq and ISIS. And here it is, they blowing each other's head up. Our violence is nowhere compared to a oppressed people
You're right.
Lashing out against an imperialistic force that is not in their favor. So I think we should stop speaking against what's wrong with the violence needs to be more directed. And where you cannot direct violence, there must be insurrection. There must be all-out, random, radical violence to show your discontent with the way society is. You can't protect the structure of society and then want radical revolution at the same time.
Speaking of that, protecting the structure, let's speak on that because I agree, like what the brother is saying. You know what I'm saying? And this is what we were talking about, like on the last show. When I'm saying, definitely, if you're upset, if Frantz Fanon said that, you can't tell a man how to fight. We've been past time sitting talking about and marching and this and that, man. When you constantly getting what we're talking about in prison, when for anybody get locked up, if a man's trying to get your booty, You know what I'm saying? You're going to do anything and all things in your power to stop that and prevent that from happening. Ain't nobody going to tell you about being too violent. So it's the same thing in our black communities. When we see these things happening to us, there should be no limit on the extent that we go to fight for our freedom. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, what like the brother was saying when he said that the conservatism, and then we get this, what were you saying, when we start getting into them protecting the structures? How do you brothers feel about what I saw on the news and was seeing that some of the protesters are actually protecting some of the structures, they say, from the looters? And we can start going, let's start going back from around this way. Let's start with Brother Vince.
Well, my view on that is, when I first heard about it on the news today, to me, my first thought was, this is a community that wants to protect the businesses around in their community that serve them. Because to me, I mean, I've never really understood rioting and looting where you live, because you have to stay in that environment and in that area, and then eventually be the one to help rebuild it if you get to that point.
Well, they feel like they don't own anything there. You know what I'm saying? I think that's one of the things when you have that type of sentiment and the people are exploding, it's like, you know what I'm saying, this Chinese mother been following me around the store anyway. I've been waiting for this day. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't own this store. So I think that's some of the, and I don't, you know, say that I speak for all of them and what their sentiment is. But I can just probably figure that, you know, this is not our thing. And did they burn down any black businesses? Were any black businesses destroyed? I think that would be one of the questions.
I know I did see a rim shop getting looted, and I doubt very seriously if that's a white-owned.
Man, it's probably Jewish-owned.
That's a very valid
You know what I'm
point.
saying? They know there was a joke, and I'm sorry, and I'm gonna go right back to you. They said, what was the joke? They said they asked they asked three type of people what they wanted. They asked the Chinese man what he wanted. Chinese man said land. They asked the white man what he wanted. Said the white man said land. They asked the black man what he wanted. He said money. They asked the Jewish man what he wanted. He said some gold and the number to that black man. You know what I'm saying? So they know that we are the biggest consumers. Right. So because it's a rim shop or a gold shop or a they own all the pawn shops in the community. So they know that we're gonna, you know, that we're gonna buy. They might have put a black man at the counter. Right. But if we look behind it,
well, with the population being 70% black, I would hope that there would be a good number of black-owned businesses in that area. I don't really know for sure, but that was my first thought. You know, why are they tearing up their own community in their own town, which is going to cost probably thousands upon thousands of dollars to rebuild? And you don't know how you're affecting the family of whoever business that is. That's my bigger picture, because what are you doing? This is somebody's livelihood, like the guy that owned the store where Mike allegedly stole the cigars from. They tore his store up the other day, yesterday or Saturday. And his attorney, the store owner's attorney, came on the news today and just talked about how hurt the man was, because he's been in the community. I believe he's Indian. He's been in the community for double-digit years, and he has a relationship with everyone in the community. So he was very hurt and disappointed by them going in and turning. And it was because they gave the tape to the police, but which they didn't ask for till 6 days later.
Right, this man, trying to defame the character.
But I just thought about this man's wife and his children and just their livelihood in general. And if you really want to see better for your community, what is tearing it down what is that gonna really accomplish?
We go to the brother, but I think one of the things is, like you said, you know, he had been a fixture in that community. He had been getting rich off that community for several years. When we look back to talk about being a fixture of the community and a part of the community, how much has he given back to the community? How much is done? See, those things go to his Indian community. At the end of the day, when he locks up that store and closes everything up, he rides probably to the suburbs of St. Louis, outside of Ferguson, and lives there, and takes that money that was gathered in the community outside of the community.
But doesn't that go back to speak for us caring about each other as humans? Yeah, he may not be a black member of this community, but he is a member of this community. And do we really want to see him torn down and destroyed because of some injustice that the white man created?
Now we got to defy, and then we're gonna go to Key Nova and make sure we get back to the brother. We have to defy what member of the community is. You know what I'm saying? Because I live next to you don't mean I'm your neighbor. You understand what I'm saying? I think going back to, and I'm not the best biblical in all that old scripture thing, but I think it was something about the Good Samaritan on the road, and the dude was from Samaria.
Right.
So basically, he was from somewhere else.
Right.
But he seen somebody that needed help. So it goes to, what are we defining as member of the community? You may have a store in my community. You may have been exploiting the people and oppressing the people for years. If you were really a member of that community, I don't think they would have tore your community down. I like to have that much hope and thought.
Right.
Very valid.
And then as a people, we don't want to take collective responsibility for the condition of our people, as though when we are mistreated, it's not going to come back to haunt us.
Right.
For example, I mean, the institution of capitalism in our own community is more significant than the value of the black men in our society. And we are all collectively responsible because we're more about our own business, making money, our own enterprise, than we are concerned about the human welfare within our very own society. I was even driving through Georgia today, and I'm just seeing all these businesses, but there's nothing for the people. Everything is an institution. So you're under corporatocracy. Every business you go into, you're under whatever their policy is. It's like nowhere for you to go and nothing for you to do besides go be under a corporation.
Right.
So when these youth see this and see that nobody cares about them, why the hell should they care about anybody? If these businesses are not set up to build military coffers and treasures to help protect them against their enemies, then why the hell should they care about them?
Okay.
That's right.
Lack of compassion breeds lack of compassion.
Lack of compassion. You want to free. You want to speak on that. Though.
When it comes down to the, when you was talking about when you spoke on the riots and everything while rioting in your own neighborhood, why not? Is the question. If you're radical enough to stand up and take an actual place in something that's bigger than you, is that not a part of what we would call a revolutionary person?
Right.
Is the question I'm asking. Now, when it comes down to it, if you really want to be quite frank about it, in a black community, it's nothing really owned by black people.
Very valid.
Them liquor stores that we go to, that's on every corner.
Right.
Them chinks
They
working
was
in there.
protecting the liquor store too in one of them pictures.
They
were.
now, even further than that.
40, you know, he got in the 40s. Boy.
Exactly. Even further than that. What is supposedly was started by the black people, the whatever we can call them Asians or whether Vietnamese, whatever they doing it now. Chicken. That's something that came from. That's something that we, they know.
You ain't stereotyping us, are you, brother?
What I'm saying
chicken,
is,
watermelon.
hey. I mean, chicken, beer, watermelon, tomato. But no, seriously, in all seriousness, when you talk about something like that, look at what is actually, like you said, in these stores and these places around our community. They have Chinese people selling us hot wings.
Yeah.
Right.
How can you sell soul food and you don't know what it was to even create that type of food?
Right.
You didn't go through the lashings and being sold out by your own people to be given that.
Right.
We made table scraps into Sunday dinner, and now they're making a mockery of us in our face.
Come on, teach,
Exactly.
brother. Teach.
So why would I not want to riot against somebody who's making a mockery of me in my face? How, as a man, not only just as a man, but as a person, can I stand there and allow that?
You know, one of the things too, my question, and then we'll go into Brother Gideon on the whole thing. There's also, they're not just the destruction, because the whole question is going to come back to rebuilding. As us as Africans here in America, are we ready to rebuild? Do we have the know-how? Do we have the resources? And what are our thoughts on the rebuilding process? Because we'll tear something up in a minute.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We would tear something, man. We would tear it down.
And that's my
You know what I'm
point.
saying?
Where you gonna go after that?
You know,
To the suburbs and start tearing. When we run out of shit tearing up there, go to the white man and start tearing up some shit
that's the
over
whole
there.
thing of organized, like you said, organized
right.
revolution.
Right,
Knowing,
right.
having your targets, having systematic, but for the rebuilding process. So my thing goes to Brother Gideon. The two questions: the protesters standing in front of the businesses. How do you feel about that? And are we ready, in your opinion, for the rebuilding process?
Well, first I want to speak again to the leadership of the youth, and I believe that ultimately the children of the Most High will be the leaders that he would have them to be. He said he was going to take the base things to confound the things that are in power and the ones who think they are wise. When we talk about the
So the
indoctrination,
Israelites finna run stuff, man.
the creator is already running things.
Okay, I'm just checking, man, because that sounds a lot like ISIS.
Well,
up in
see,
here,
the
you know.
reality of
I don't want to be on nobody's mountain.
our position in this country has to do with the spiritual power and the prophecies concerning our people. The issue of violence is something I don't say that violence is not going to be a component of our ultimate overthrow of this country. I do say, however, that the violence will come from a higher power, and that's why prophetically it was said that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. When we talk about the children protecting the state-sponsored buildings, it's because of blindness, miseducation. It's because that there have been infiltrators and the collaborators with the oppressors, and also agent provocateurs who have helped to guide our people because of the breakdown of the family. See, again, it comes right back to the household. And systematically, the European, through the mindset, have turned our women against the men and the men against the women. And they did that through taking the man out of the house through government programs.
Talk about it.
So at the end of the day, we're looking at something that's happened over almost 100 years of indoctrination, the corporate interest through the media. So again, our children are gonna ultimately, there's a great sacrifice getting ready to take place. We're getting ready to die in large numbers. And our people don't realize it. We still gangster and talking a lot of big talk. Like you said, we don't have any physical weapons. That's why they're trying to instigate the fight. And they're killing our children right in front of our face. The power that we have is solidarity. As a lamb, I know peace is going to be the ultimate way, but we do have to fight.
As a lamb, you will be a lamb chop.
Right. Because at the end of the day,
because when we look at, and we coming to you, Brother Kingdom, when we look at, I think this is one of the importance to me and the significance of what Brother Malcolm was doing by taking our fights to a human rights level. You know what I'm saying? We look at the Palestinian struggle, they don't really have weapons. The weapons that they do have are antiquated. What's the word? Antiquated? They're old.
Antiquated.
Okay. Antiquated. They're old, basically. They're old. Way old weapons. But their fight and their perseverance and their willingness to do what it takes has brought world attention. And when you bring that, I think that the African here in America, one of the things that he should look at as a real plausible strategy is bringing the word, not just taking our fight as a civil rights. See, this is why we still have brothers like Matula Shakur, Sundada, Kola Mumi, Abu Jamal, Imam Jamil, Abdullah Alameen, free them all. We still have those brothers and many political prisoners in prison because they haven't looked at our struggle as a real revolutionary movement. You see what I'm saying? Once we're looked at as a real revolutionary movement, these brothers will be freed under certain laws under the Geneva Convention. But as long as they're still criminalized and it's a civil rights movement, they're looked at as thug Negroes and they're and held bound by the same enemy they were fighting, an imperialist court system, saying that they're criminals to that system, then they always be held by those laws. But when they looked at they were fighting for human rights were violated, and a revolution was taking place for people to gain their human rights, then I think that we would have grounds to, in fact, I would know we would have grounds to free them. If you freeing them Arabs in if you freeing them in Gitmo, if you freeing them Arabs in Guantanamo Bay, and you freeing Palestinians are getting Arab free over in Israel, there's no way you're not going to tell me that we can't have our political fighters.
Let me follow up briefly and just say this. What we're seeing in Ferguson, Missouri is the King Alfred plan. That's one of the things that my beloved brother, warrior, soldier Mark Johnson revealed that he was looking. And see, we talked about the King Alfred plan, which is a legitimate government project to quell insurrection and to be put in place in the event of circumstances just like what we see.
Right.
That's why they brought the military in. King Alfred Plan, Rex 84, Patriot Act. They have so many acts in the government that they have prepared themselves for what they are urging on, and that's war against our people.
Which is one of the basic reasons why I honestly feel in this country we won't have that's
Lean over a little bit, brother.
Freedom for us is not going to be achieved here based on these laws that they structured for us.
Right.
Because number one, the whole Constitution was a lie from the get-go.
Come on.
Talk about it. Now,
That's right.
Let's go even deeper than that. When you want to talk about the freedom of us as people, that was lied to us.
Don't forget your mic.
That was lied to us within the Emancipation Proclamation, where they were supposedly the abolishment of slavery, but your job is $725 an hour on some BS, where you going and punching the time clock for this man, and he's getting rich, and he gives you table scraps, which is basically
crumbs,
capitalism.
So they went from slavery to indentured servitude.
That's it, basically. Well, you still a slave.
Not even indentured servitude. It's even worse than that. It's even worse than that. Everything that comes down when you're talking about the legal system and a job, that is degradation to you.
Yeah. But I'm gonna tell you, man, where I had to jump in, and I forgot about your king, though, but you still had your comment. You remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because we're gonna go to brother next. That I'm one of those people, the people that watch me, I'm one of those people that, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that, that I honestly don't believe you can equate having a job to slavery. I'm just one of those people that, you know what I'm saying, I don't even think I could do
You must
that.
not be the working poor then.
No, you know, I mean, no, because I wouldn't do my ancestors like that. You can quit a job.
I respect
You
that.
couldn't walk your butt up out that cotton field.
Respect.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
True.
You can quit. You're not gonna get that boss is not gonna knock you over top of your head if you don't flip that hamburger fast enough.
But guess what? Them
You know what I'm
bills
saying?
Thank you.
Them bills that
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got,
yeah,
they
hello.
gonna slap you in your
Them
face
bills,
every
but
month.
you know what?
That's
And you
right.
still have an opportunity to go out, whether it's legal or illegal, to go out there and handle your business. If you're reliant and dependent on a job, I mean, you even have the chance to do entrepreneurs. Some of the brothers that we kick it with go out and sell their own music. They make their music, they sell their music. They have that opportunity. I think too many times, I deal with people that be like, I'm about to go to the plantation. I just think it's distasteful and disrespectful to our ancestry to equate somebody giving me a paycheck to somebody putting a lash on my back because I say I refuse to bend down and pick up some cotton.
Okay,
I
now,
don't think that
The question then becomes, is mental slavery versus physical slavery.
Okay, that's
Come on.
right. That's
Come
the
on.
question.
It's
all- yeah, there we go. It's all slavery. It's all slavery.
Right. The
It's
most
all
brutal
slavery.
part of slavery was its mental part.
Yeah.
Because you can heal physically, but generations later, we have not healed mentally.
Okay.
for slavery.
Exactly.
Okay,
So the
agree.
fact that we need a job, that we can't create our own society and be self-sufficient, one that will reflect justice for us and what we consider to be moral, but the fact that we feel like we have to be under him, that's slavery. That's a plantation.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people working don't feel like they have a
That they can
choice.
get free.
And
Exactly.
who removed the chooser from them, where they don't feel like they have a choice towards manifesting what freedom is for them.
Exactly.
That's mental
So
slavery.
it's mental
Exactly.
slavery.
It's
But I
more,
would-
yeah, mental.
My word, I would love to say, and that's a good thing, I would love to say mental slavery because I think I'm still stuck on the thing that I think it is so degrading to our ancestry. You know what I'm saying? Who had physically, you know what I'm saying, went through what they went through to say that it's equivalent to slavery. But I agree with what the brothers say. Some of us are mental. You know what I'm saying? But you had brothers and sisters back then that whether they were Uncle Toms or whether they didn't want it, they didn't have a damn option.
Right.
That's the point that I'm making. So I'm saying that, you know, to belittle that struggle, to equate some Negro working at Burger King to some woman getting raped in the field daily.
But the fact that you believe they didn't have an option, that's mental slavery too. I mean, it's give me liberty or give me death. They had an option too, but there was enough psychological stuff in play to even make them believe that they didn't have an option but work, that they could just kill all off the slave master.
Because whether you believe it or not, right now, as it stands, guess what? Yeah, I may stand out on the corner and I may sell my CD. But guess what? I'm still waiting on the white man's money. Because
Every time.
That's
Every time.
somebody else's money.
It's
That's somebody else's job.
yeah, it's a
So
form-
guess what? You go into, you know what I'm saying, you going into these jobs, you working these jobs. Yes, it may not be the equivalent of being lashed 1,000 times, picking cotton, but guess what? That box you pick up, every time you waiting in line on child, like they did, guess what? That's the same thing you do for that
Yeah,
patient.
it's slave wages.
It's all mental, and it takes it back to, you know, it takes it back to one thing that I heard in the movie. Neo, when Neo in the movie Matrix, when Neo was approached by Morpheus, Morpheus first had to deal with him and to break him down mentally.
Exactly. Right.
Which means he told him, the first thing he told him, he said, "You're still a slave.
Right.
You're not enslaved to this system. You're a slave in your mind."
Right.
So that's why I agree with the brother.
Exactly.
It's always going to be mental
slave.
slavery.
And
Or
I-
what you said the other day to me, mental colonialism.
Neo-colonial, and I agree with that, but I think that our people, I think that really honestly, when we're talking to our people, they have to know the difference between chattel slavery and mental slavery. If you don't, then you will equate the two. Even whether it's one worse than the other, however you may feel about that, I think that education is in proper order and that has to be taught.
Yes,
That's the next step. That's the next step of the game.
And look at the paradox in that too, is that if I say, well, look, I'm gonna show you the difference, the mental slavery of it. If I say, you know, well, let's go create our own cotton field and make our own cotton. The same person that got a job under the white man, right,
wanna do
making
that.
his own T-shirts, is gonna say, no, nigga, I ain't gonna never work in no cotton field. Are you out your mind? But yet I own the cotton field and I'm producing
right.
my own T-shirts.
All right.
But that cotton
All right.
field, cotton field is linked to chattel slavery.
That's right.
But that job is linked to bourgeois Negro development.
Yeah.
I have a job. Why the hell would I work in a cotton field with you?
I'm working, I get my paycheck. He's absolutely
right.
yeah. The brother's teaching.
That's why he's the
absolutely-
king.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right on that. The black man has to figure out that it's all about the entrepreneurial spirit and doing for himself, doing rid of the system that's enslaving him. You know what I'm saying? But understanding that at the same time, when you understand where you're at, you can form proper strategies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is knowing where we're at. When we know that it's all a mental thing, that we can't escape, that we think that that's what white supremacy is. Like we were talking the other day, you don't have to be white to have it. And we're going to make sure we keep it with St. Louis. You don't have to be white to propagate white supremacy. White supremacy is an ideology.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So anytime that you think his way of life is better,
Come on,
his
teach.
way of life is going to get
Teach,
you out
brother.
of any situation,
All right.
Yes, sir.
any circumstance you in, that's white supremacy.
Yes, sir.
Well,
So
not only his way of life, his government.
anything, that's his
His-
way of
his
life.
philosophy.
That's his way of life.
His political-
That's his way of
That's
life.
his way of life.
Himself.
Amen. Anything. His Bible is anything.
body.
Are you coming with it? Right? His Bible anything. But we say that we look at real strategies. I think the time that when we look at white supremacy, it has to be dealt with head on. I don't think I'm one of those people. I don't believe that you can run to a corner of the world and not address the issues. If you go in the home and click on your light, if you don't have a lantern or this and that, if you using Georgia Power, you dealing with their politics. You know what I'm saying? If you got these pigs riding through your hood and you showing ID every time they ask you for your ID, you dealing with their politics. So for us not to sit back, and say, I'm not going to deal with these things, I'm not going to address these things because that's of the white man, I think is a defeatist attitude.
So should we do, not exactly like the Jews did, but should we ask these white people for our own state?
You don't ask them.
We taking it.
You don't act right. You
Malcolm
take it.
already, not Malcolm and Farrakhan already did that in the Muslim. The minister asked
Okay.
Europeans for several states
sure did.
Okay.
so that we could collectively go.
The
you
Black
think
Legion,
these-
too.
You want this stolen property? You think these thieves gonna give you property that's so?
And
Right.
this is
Come
the
on.
question of
That's
this.
the same
This
way
is the
Mississippi
problem.
paid for the
This is the
48
this is the issue to me with political activism and black nationalism. For one, black nationalism is not interested in having a state because it's concerned with all the black people. This white man will give you some state. You can get enough millionaires to give you some money to set up your own state somewhere, but that's not going to change the ultimate condition of black people historically or from a Pan-African level or even from a nationalistic perspective in America. Black nationalism means we have to bring down all institutions of white supremacy. As long as one is standing, it doesn't matter how much land we got. That means black people are being oppressed somewhere. And like Dr. King said, if you're being oppressed anywhere, we are being oppressed everywhere. So the ultimate goal of black nationalism is to destroy white supremacy.
Teach, black man.
That's it.
Teach.
That's it.
So your
And empowering ourselves.
your
Destroy
point
that
of
to
view,
empower ourselves.
The way you prove your empowerment is I can go bring down who he was disempowerment. Until I can
right.
bring him down, I have no way to prove that I'm empowered.
That's right.
Exactly.
If the disempowered is still walking around, how am I empowered?
Right.
Right.
I think exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the ultimate. I think that that's the ultimate thing. And I'm going to you, Vince. Go ahead.
well, no, I have a question for King Noble.
Mhm.
So your method or solution would be radicalism, violence, overthrow the white, and build our own.
When you say method, I don't have something that's all encompassing.
Okay.
Of all black people. But
Okay.
what I do is I understand from what black people are doing how that can or cannot evolve into strong nationalism or overthrowing white supremacy.
Okay.
And when I see like violence and I see even the sagging, a lot of our behavior in our community is insurrective in and of itself.
Right.
But our conservatives attack it. Our gangbangers are nothing but their own governments and states
That's
and
it,
nations
brother.
and our own
That's it.
rebellion
Speak
against
on
white
that.
supremacy.
Speak on that.
And that's,
So
they
I
reformed.
think we need to back off of our situation in a way. Stop jumping in our own situation as white conservatives and black bodies and let it kind of build up into the type of momentum that it needs to
right.
destabilize white supremacy. Then we step in as the organizational force after you get the devil out the way.
Man, I like this, brother.
You follow?
Yeah, he talking some good stuff.
Well, see, the thing
And
about it is,
honestly, you could use the black devil to bring down the white devil.
Yeah.
All right.
And then once they destabilize each other, then we come and say, okay, we setting this up now. This is going to be a black nationalist democracy. It's going to be like this, that, and the other. Y'all going to eat on Tuesday. We're going to set up like this and keep it moving, man.
Same way they infiltrated our
But stop
country,
trying to
our
save
country.
the structure with black conservatives
Exactly.
imposed as black nationalism or religious theology. Quit trying to save, create a
Trying to
peaceful,
save
safe
face.
society under white
Exactly.
supremacy.
Save face.
Exactly.
And just dealing with the question of building. We can't build nothing under white supremacy. Until you
Nothing.
destroy
They're not gonna let
white
you.
supremacy, you can't build anything but something that is consistent with white supremacy.
that's it. Well, see, that's the whole point. And what you were saying, see, we've seen throughout our history, whether it was Auburn Avenue, whether it was Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, we've shown the world we know how to build as a
Right.
community.
We built America.
Every
Yeah,
time
right.
we
We built
built
America,
it, they tore it down.
Come on.
So the problem has to do with what is it that we're trying to build as black nationalists. I'm a black nationalist as a Hebrew, but the Hebrew community has a focus that's beyond man's
You're a theocrat,
I'm a theocrat. Man's ability to take land
Yeah.
and keep land. But guess what? The problem that we have has to do with land as well.
Yeah.
Because here we were taken from our land,
Right.
which is what you were saying about not knowing our identity. And now the scripture says we're going to go back to our land. But what did they tell you? They tell you they don't want you to leave. But then they go out and put a virus in the very countries that we came from, that they started, so that you will be afraid to leave. So that you damned if you do, and you damned if you don't.
It goes back to like what the brother was saying to me though, black nationalism. You know what I'm saying? And the whole thing of taking down white supremacy so that we can be empowered, liberate, and build our own nations, and creating that momentum. Well, like Free was saying, that lack of identity. So when Africans here in America, when we lack identity, we find our identity in everything else.
Exactly.
We find our identity in our religion, we find our identity in our politics, and we don't start doing what's good for African people. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it's going to boil down to. I agree with what he says, like when he says the young men wearing, because I asked the young brother, why you wear your pants sagging? So he said, I wear my pants sagging so the world kiss my ass. You know what I'm saying? He said, they ain't did nothing. You know, so you hear the revolution, and like you said, you hear the insurgents. Right, they're radicalized. This is why we do the whole thing. We just went yesterday to the gang summer gang a march for unity and peace. Crips, Bloods, Gangster Disciples were all there. I was pleasantly surprised to see all the people there, you know, shaking up, dapping hands and this and that, ready to make that move. But it goes back to what something King Noble said about the young people ready to make that transition, and older people allowing that to be ushered in. But we haven't found the middle ground. We haven't found anything that all our people can accept, because we still get in the thing of what's right and wrong for our people, and we're not understanding that an African people here in America are a special breed of people. We're not like any other people in the world.
Let me say this about the elders. See, you got old gangsters, and unfortunately, we gangster amongst ourselves. See, you got leaders like Al Sharpton. Al is just a few months older than me. But you got leaders like the minister. You got all these older leaders, but they have people around them that don't allow the young people to come up, because they want that adoration. They want that power, and it's just like Muhammad Ali never wanting to let the ring go, because you get all of that. And that's why in our little group that we don't have any one leader. Our leader is the Most High. Everybody in the group is a leader, and that's what we're seeing in this collective right here. We're all leaders in this group, and therefore, as a collective, it isn't that we haven't had the understanding of how to build communities to protect our people, but you're under a slave master that brought you over here as a slave, and he want to destroy you. His manifesto is to destroy you.
That's a fact.
So without us having the ability to extricate ourselves from it, then you're left, not that we don't have the ability to educate, communicate, prepare, feed ourselves, but we've been forced into this because we still enslaved.
I understand that. She's got time to free yourself.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? It's just that simple. It's time to free yourself. But what is freedom?
It's a state of mind.
That's not just, the one. I think that one of the biggest problems for the African here in America is defying freedom. It goes back to like what King Noble said. Some of us think free is having a job.
That's it.
Some of us think free is having this nice home or having this car. What is freedom? And what is freedom as acceptable to all African people, especially and I think this is the thing for me, what black nationalism is. True freedom, and not just our end goal, because all black nationalists at the end of the day can get together and say, okay, this is what we're trying to achieve, but the strategy and the means to achieve that.
Well, the vast majority of our people have thought freedom meant siding with these killers in America, because they hold the nuclear stick that they're going to beat the world with. So our mothers and our fathers, they worship the same God of this devil. They go to the same churches. They can't wait to get back into the gladiatorial event because they got season tickets. But yet this devil is killing their children, and they hate that. But they got so many other components of the system that they're infused with, that after the killing, they go right back to the party. They go back to work, and we forget that it's the same system that we're supporting that's destroying us.
Let's go to Vince. I know I see you've been patient down there, brother.
My problem with this white system, or I think that their problem with us, is we're like cockroaches to them.
Exactly.
They kill us. They kill 5. Here come 30 more. They kill 10. Here come 100 more. And they're stuck with this problem, which is the same problem they had after slavery, the Negro problem, and what to do with us. You know what I mean? And I think they're still in that mindset of trying to figure out what to do with us. And so they figure they can kill us, here and there in little segments. They'll get the black leaders to come in and tell everybody to be quiet, and a few months will go by, and then we'll have another incident. You know what I mean? So to me, it's like it's a placebo. You know what I mean? We stand up and we yell, we roar, and we fight. You know what I mean? Like just like Trayvon Martin.
Right.
I haven't heard anything about Trayvon Martin, anything since last summer.
Africans here in America get selective amnesia like that. We get emotional, man.
Yeah.
That's why black
I said
leaders,
that
we
for
have
years.
to get behind the, we have to get behind the youth. We can't come with this
real.
conservatism when stuff kick off. I see leaders that was talking radical. St. Louis kick off, they like, no, don't do nothing. We ain't gonna win. We can't do that. To me, anything is better than nothing under white supremacy, man.
Okay, King Noble. So what do we need to do as black? What do we need to do to mobilize and come together as a unit to do like
Support
you said,
mobilizations. People are already mobilizing. They mobilized in St. Louis. Where was our support of the mobilization? Where did we? Everybody saying everybody's a bystander or just a watcher. We're all. The bulk of us are already ready to mobilize. It's just backing them during the mobilizations. It's adding energy to and emphasis to those mobilizations.
Reactionaries, though. I mean, we have
Right,
to get
that's
away
what I
from
was
being
about to go.
reactionaries.
Thank you. You
That's
took
the
the
whole thing,
words
man.
out
We
my
have to be
mouth.
proactive, man. We have to be revolutionaries. See, the whole thing of a revolutionary is constantly training for stuff like St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? To exploit revolutionary events. So when this come on, and like, man, there's so much I want to say, but I would not say on television. You know what I'm saying? On some real stuff. But there are certain events that like, okay, you know, we said, should you been out there, like people are just riding. A revolutionary he understands that everybody in the crowd is not going to be revolutionary.
Exactly.
So he they hitting Foot Locker, they hitting Radio Shack, they getting the big screen TVs. The revolutionaries in the crowd, he said, okay, to the pawn shops, they grabbing weapons. To the CVS, they grabbing medicine. They not, you know, he directs the crowd. We have to stop being reactionary, because reactionary is just off emotionalism, and then we still caught up in this capitalist mind. We angry, but we're capitalists.
Thank you.
In our mindset. So the first thing we think, yeah, hell with the white man, I'm going to get
But
that
you
big
have
screen.
to support the destabilization of white supremacy, because when they're not dealing with stuff like St. Louis, they looking for the black messiah. They ready to kill your real leaders. So any destabilization among white supremacy is a plus for us, no matter what it is.
Which kind of, what you just touched on, which kind of understands why a lot of our leaders are incarcerated at this point in time. What a lot of youth and people don't realize is this country, they funding this war, yes, but there's a war here that a lot of people have no idea is going on. What's going on now is all of these trains that we just now all of a sudden seeing, they're carrying different building products to build prisons to put us in.
Yeah, no doubt.
You mean they ain't got enough prisons yet?
They got enough.
What do you mean?
Y'all still having
too many
babies.
free blacks.
Why would I have enough prisons when I can enterprise off of locking you up?
And then, exactly.
They want a prison society, a black
Why would I do that?
It's like
Now 78. Now look at we'll say for instance the Georgia Dome. The Georgia Dome, they're getting ready to tear it down to make way for another one.
Right.
That's 78,000 people that can fit in a building like that.
That's right.
Exactly.
So with 78,000 people, I just took, as a white man, 78,000 black people off of the streets and house them in there and make them stay there and treat them with the same intentions as the Holocaust.
And it's not just Katrina, right? And it's not just, and we have to give it, you know, like a criminal, everything like a crime is committed with motive. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has a motive. We have to look at that. Prisons have been privatized. We look at what capitalism was founded on. Capitalism was started on the backs of slavery. It's to reinstitute slavery. America's in debt. You privatize your prisons. One thing you can guarantee, they judge building prisons off third grade aptitude tests. You understand what I'm saying? So they already know. They're guaranteed. It's like if you build when you privatize something, turn something into a business, you're looking for a return from it. Like when you build a restaurant, you're looking for a certain amount of customers. So when you build prisons, you got your lobbyists and stuff going to these judges. It's disproportionate. Your sentencing, we're systematically being attacked. Listen, we're coming in our last minute.
All right.
I would give, man, this is how good this conversation is. We're coming up on 3 minutes. I'm hoping we can get the brother back.
Yeah,
Get
it's
you
a
on back,
pleasure
'cause
to
this
come
is
on
not
this show.
done. This is definitely not a done conversation. Some very, very strong points. Get our panel back. Coming again, man. Thanking all our panelists for being on the arena. Thanking my man, Black Son. Jump on in. Jump on.
You on the spot. King Noble, you need to come back on here. You need to get some
Look
of
at
this
the camera,
down.
tell him, son. Make sure.
We gonna make sure we put King Noble on this show again. 'Cause,
Yeah, we need him here again. We definitely got to get
lucid,
him.
man.
That brother right there. That brother got something with him.
Yeah, so we coming through.
no doubt.
Our brother Vince, brother Free, definitely thanks for coming out. We're hoping you coming back. You know what I'm saying?
I'll be back. I'll
Get the
definitely
green
be
light to be
back.
able to come
Yeah,
back,
definitely.
share your wisdom.
Absolutely.
I Elder Gideon all the time, always a pleasure.
Brother.
And King Noble, listen, this is your man Yang and Krumah coming to you, hosting the arena this week. Glad that you came join us. Join us the next time. Sundays, you know what it is, 5 to 6 on Comcast. Same black, staying black show, same black time. You know, catch us on YouTube, the Arena 2013, all one word. Don't go for the hype what YouTube do when they try to split it. So you don't hit our show, 2013, all one word. Peace and love. Vince, you want to say something, brother?
Peace out from Baghdad, USA. You already know. Real Mike Brown.
Hey,
Yes.
it's going on, man.
Peace.
Yo, justice for Mike Brown. Definitely, we want some justice for Mike Brown.
shoot.
Don't, right.
Don't shoot me, Mr. Officer.
Don't shoot.
Somebody
Oh, we gonna
back.
shoot.
You know
We
what
gonna
I'm
shoot.
saying? So, you know, definitely justice for my man. And we exactly. And with all that being said, we thank you for showing the show, you in the show, and peace, man.
Peace and blessings.
Peace.
Peace. Peace. Sam.
And we appreciate you coming. We wish the best.
Oh, babies, huh? Y'all, but that was good.
We gotta come hard. We gotta come hard, but
That's
yo,
okay.
you gonna get your we giving you
look.
some. We
Now,
giving you
what
some
you had to
things.
say about Jesse? What's this Jesse James stuff?
No, it's
Jesse's a
simple.
bank robber,
Jesse James is a bank robber. Frank James is his brother. So I'm not gonna go to Frank
Since
James
it's all love.
and say
Real.
that Jesse James
And I wish you
robbed.
the best, and I hope that you do get